"Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt." Later, when Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel." Then he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee and lived in Nazareth. A refugee, according to the Geneva Convention on Refugees, is a person who is outside their country of citizenship because they have well-founded grounds for fear of persecution. Today's gospel clearly meets the Geneva Convention on Refugees. The Holy Family flees out of fear. In the proclamation of the gospel, it is not too hard to imagine the plight of the Syrian refugees this day. We see in this short gospel the way that the family moves from fleeing out of fear to a place of being settled in Nazareth. We know from reading ahead in the gospel that apart from his early years, Jesus is constantly on the go in his ministry. In Matthew 4, Jesus will leave Nazareth to live in Capernaum. In Mark 10, Jesus left Capernaum and went down to the region of Judea and across the Jordan. He left Judea and returned to Galilee. Apart from fleeing to and from Egypt, Jesus' coming and going is not of a refugee out of fear, but rather out of his call to ministry. There is a deep sense that once a refugee, always a refugee. Not my words, but words that have gone down through the centuries, repeated over and over in spiritual and religious literature. These words are not meant that one is literally a refugee and constantly leaving places out of fear or of persecution. Today, I want to reflect on all of us and our ancestry going back to this gospel, to see all of us as Christians as spiritual refugees, and what that might mean, how that might change our life, how it may change the life of this congregation. So I did a little research, as you see from the first few minutes of the sermon, about this coming and going. And where is our home? Is our home here in Fair Oaks, here in Sacramento? What is our center? I came across 1 Peter, which reads, "Friends, this world is not your home, so don't make yourselves cozy in it. Don't indulge your ego at the expense of your soul." In Hebrews, we read, "For this world is not our permanent home. We are looking forward to a home yet to come." In John 18, we read, "My kingdom is not of this world." The refugee is always a refugee in the ways they have been taught to travel light and without clinging to any one place. Jesus' life and ministry was defined by his early experience as a refugee. Jesus does not minister in one place, but rather goes to many places over a 40-mile stretch from Galilee. Jesus' ministry is free from the restriction of any one place. Listen to these words, and as we listen together, let us allow ourselves to be shaped by them. At the end, I'll tell you who said them. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is another way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No confession brings perfection. No pastoral visit brings wholeness. No program accomplishes the church mission. No set of goals and objectives include everything. This is what we are about. We plant seeds that one day will grow. We water the seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything. There is a sense of liberation in realizing this. This enables us to do something and to do it very well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and to do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers. None of us are master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are the prophets of a future, not our own. These words are from Archbishop Oscar Romero. Today's gospel reminds us of our Christian roots as refugees. The words of the gospel are particularly apropos for all of us as a congregation, as together we acknowledge Deacon Eileen's ministry at St. Francis as it comes to a close. Like every clergy person who passes through every parish, the parish does not belong to us, but rather is a vehicle of God's love. Often it has been said that the parish belongs to the people, not to the clergy. Yet when we claim our Christian roots as spiritual refugees, this parish and any parish does not belong to the clergy or to the laypersons. We are passing through this place as we respond to God's action in our lives. It is true that some of you have been members of St. Francis for 30 years or longer. Even so, when compared to the kingdom of God and God's vision of eternity, those 30 years is a blink of the eye. The gospel, with its emphasis on the Holy Family's refugee status, reminds us of our spiritual roots. We are reminded to not cling to one another, to this place, to programs, to ministers, or anything else. But in some sense, the entire church has forgotten its refugee roots, to which we have been reminded in today's gospel. To borrow from 1 Peter, it is so easy for all of us to become cozy with one another. I have a sense that Jesus did not spend a lot of time worrying about how long he was going to stay in every place he went to minister. Jesus did good work everywhere he went. The length of the stay was not Jesus' primary concern. Jesus' sole interest was to bring about the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is greater and more expansive than any one place. Now, there are many ways to attend to God's kingdom. The Benedictines take a vow of stability to one place, one monastery for their whole life. But increasingly, I'm finding that people come to St. Francis and the congregations of this diocese and throughout our church for a period of time shorter than 30 years. And when we begin to receive and recognize and acknowledge our primary identity as spiritual refugees, following Jesus' encounter to many places rather than one place, our whole outlook on congregational life changes. The spiritual refugee congregation, if you will, the spiritual refugee camp congregation, welcomes people to stay as long as they sense the Spirit of God calling them to be in this place. In this way, you and I are not offended or saddened when people stay for just a few months or a year and then leave for another church or nowhere. The spiritual refugee congregation is not organized for its own comfort or coziness, but rather as an oasis, a camp for refugees as they come in from their arduous, painful, difficult journeys. The spiritual refugee congregation appreciates each other's presence but does not cling to any one of us. For as faith community, we cling only to God and the call of the Spirit. The spiritual refugee congregation travels lightly and is not burdened by material comforts that distract us from being prophetically available to respond to the needs we hear among our neighbors, local and far away. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were a family, but they did not cling to their family identity. Similarly, it is spiritually healthy for you and me not to cling as a congregation, as a family, but more as this sense of a refugee camp. In a recent article about the Syrian refugees in the United Kingdom's Guardian newspaper, the columnist wrote this: "Amid the squalor in the main camp, there is still kindness. A Syrian man makes us chai tea in his shelter." In a book on the spiritual life of refugees, the author writes, "In the refugee camps, despite the desolate situation, there is great hope among the people." Isn't it striking the way kindness and hope are characteristics that describe refugee camps and also this congregation? In addition to kindness and hope, spiritual refugees never become cozy in one place, but rather are mindful of the need to be free of all that binds and distracts, are attentive listening to the Spirit. In today's gospel, we have been reminded that one of our primary Christian identity markers is as spiritual refugees. Let's face it, recognition of our refugee identity disturbs our routines. From time to time, we people of faith need to be disturbed and displaced so that we do not become cozy with one another in our place, but remain radically open to the Spirit of God leading us to even greater service and impact on our community and the world. The end of one year and the beginning of another is in some way both continuity and disruption as the new year begins. Similarly, our practice of ministry is being disturbed as we say goodbye to Deacon Eileen. In the months ahead, like refugees, we will be uprooted from our ministry routines. Naming, without diminishment of feelings or disruption of, is good. Like refugees, we don't have a clear sense of where we're going, but we are on a journey with Jesus at our side, leading us to an abundance for all to share. God bless you.